Hello, everyone. Welcome to Touchdown on True Sports. My name is Chantel Alicia, and I'm going to be your host for today's show. Joining me today are my analysts, Nolan Kangas, Luca Moya, and Stephen Cunnin. Today, we're going to be giving you some insight on a few key games that took place in Week 14 and what's to come in Week 15, because I believe we have a couple of exciting matchups this coming Saturday, actually. So let's start off by discussing Baltimore versus Cleveland game. What an amazing game effort by both teams. So tell me, Luca, what was your main takeaway from that game?
I have a couple, Chantel. Number one, what a game, guys. I mean, I'm watching that game and I'm thinking we haven't seen a fourth quarter this back and forth in a long time. It's just so exciting to watch. Monday nights don't usually put out the best games, but man, they have done a great job so far. This game, the Bills game last week, so amazing. A couple things I took away. Number one, Baker Mayfield starting to look like that number one pick, the guy that we saw in Oklahoma, the one who won the Heisman Trophy. He's starting to really pick it up in this offense. He threw his first interception, I believe, in the last 5 games or so, and again, he's still doing what they need to be done. And guys, Odell Beckham Jr. is not even there. Once he comes back, beginning of the year, a lot of people were saying he's wasting his talent over there. I don't think so. The way that Baker's playing in that team, I still think this team goes through the run game. But, man, Nolan, that offensive coordinator you guys had last year, he's doing a great job, Stefanski, over there in Cleveland. But my biggest takeaway, guys, is the kicking. Cleveland, they make their kicks in that game. They win. I think they're the best team in that division. Despite the loss, I still think out of that, what I took away, they're the best team in that division. I would go as crazy to say, guys, call me crazy. I'm starting a team. Right away, I'm calling up Baltimore. I'm thinking, okay, I'm giving you a 3rd-round pick for Justin Tucker. I'm going to do it because this guy is automatic. You only have to drive, realistically, the ball 35 yards down the field to get into field goal range. That is how great this guy is, 90.8%, something crazy like that. It probably went up even more after last night's game. The kicking is what screwed Cleveland. And when you're looking at contenders, guys, in this league, I think we really got to look at which team has good kickers because it can come down to a kick. We've seen it so many times, teams losing because their kicker. Nolan, you've probably felt the most pain this weekend, right? Your kicker threw away, 10 points it was? I think right now, looking at the NFL, you have an elite kicker, you're automatically a contender if your team can get in position. They don't have to be great offensively. All you got to do, like I said, drive the ball 35 yards down the field, you get 3 points.
Yeah, it was a crazy game, man. Can't even lie about that. For me, my first takeaway from this game is $235 that went in my pocket because I had the weekly picks and I took Baltimore while everybody else took Cleveland. Yo, my heart was beating out of my chest. But the next one on top of that, the next big thing that happened in that game, Lamar Jackson seizing the moment. The entire game seemed like it was old Lamar Jackson from last year, the MVP that we grew to love. Seeing him out there, it was crazy. Just even with the storybook ending, the way things went down, he leaves with a cramp or the Paul Pierce moment, as we call it nowadays. He leaves to go back and get some treatment. And then everyone's looking around, where's Lamar? Where's Lamar? McSorley comes in, he gets injured. 4th down, what's going to happen? My God, here he comes. Back down the tunnel on his Willis Reed moment. He's about to seize the moment, and he came in, touchdown. He came in, got them to where they need to go, and it was like the whole momentum shifted when Lamar came back, and it was just great to see that for the entire team because they need these games headed into this playoff rush right now. Headed down the line, they're looking ahead. You got to say after this game, they must be feeling great about themselves, and that's another thing we can look at from this game. The question is the table set for them to run it to make the playoffs right now? Right now, the Ravens have their next 3 matchups. They have the Jacksonville Jags, the New York Giants, and the Cincinnati Bengals. That's possible for them to run the table and make the playoffs with no problem and put all these woes that they have behind them. If these guys can do it and hold themselves up, I know that defense looked kind of Swiss cheese yesterday. I can say that because Baker Mayfield, these past 2 weeks, he's been showing out. But if that defense can hold themselves together and these guys can push forward, there's no reason they can't make that 7th or 6th spot to make it into the playoffs this season.
I think these are the 2 best teams in the division, and I just don't know who to put at number 1. Because you look at Baltimore, their offense looks like they're back. We saw, I know it was against Dallas, they had nearly 300 yards on the ground. Again, we see Monday night, 231 against Cleveland's defense, who is supposed to be getting better on the front, their back end, we know, has been banged up all season long. So for me, Lamar is finally not yet that MVP form that he was, but he's seeing the right holes. He's scrambling a lot more, and he was terrific on the ground. Baker, Luka, you mentioned it. Looks like he's playing a little bit better now. Again, there were some moments there, and there was the one to Bryant where he was right in front of him and threw, a 100-mile-per-hour fastball at basically his face mask, where he's just got to throw a little softball in there, low and away. It didn't end up happening. But still, when that score got out of reach, it seemed, all right, now he's going to be forcing some throws, some turnovers. He didn't. He looked terrific. These two teams are really solid. There's one question mark I have with the Ravens. How long will the running game sustain? And that was the same as last year, right? Because we think about the passing game. It's Mark Andrews. That's it. I'm sorry. Hollywood Brown has been horrifically bad. And he saved himself by having that wide open touchdown where it was busted coverage, but he has bricks for hands. So that worries me when it comes to playoff time. But I do think both these teams will be in the playoffs. I would love to see them match up, whether it's in the second round or something like that. But I do think they're just both more complete than the Steelers. They have the run game. At times, they can beat you with the pass. Their defense can show up and have big moments, whether it's the corners with the Ravens or whether it's Myles Garrett or Olivier Vernon, who's found a new form coming around the edge. They're more complete to me than the Steelers. They seem to be a bigger threat. That's what I took away from this game. It could have been a 9-6 game, and we would have been like, yeah, that's expected. We got two teams putting up 47 and 42. Like, come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, you guys made some really valid points. I think it's going to be a really, really close call, and it's really going to come down to the wire. So we'll soon find out. Okay, so let's discuss some trust issues in reference to teams that are clinching at a playoff berth, or maybe they're already clinched, but they're still giving you trust issues kind of heading into postseason. So, Steven, what are your thoughts?
So the way I see it, the team, this might not be popular, or it might be popular, but the way I see it, being first in the NFC, it definitely has its perks, all praise and good fortune. And I mean, right now, that's where the Packers sit. They're first amongst that whole conference right now. And I say this because KC's first on their side. And when I say KC, I feel like these guys can push it to the Super Bowl and make it to the Super Bowl, no problem. But when I say Green Bay, I don't feel that same type of feeling thinking about them. I don't look at Green Bay and say, you know what, these guys are going to be able to push through every single team that they see in the playoffs and make it through all the way to a Super Bowl. The one small word I think that everyone can bring to mind is overrated. I think they're kind of overrated, guys. And minus the one win over the Saints earlier, these guys have mostly wrapped up their wins against subpar squads, and they found their way to 10-3 all of a sudden. I think from the 10 wins they've got, the record of those teams are 31-50. So they're not really out here playing no winning squads. I mean, every once in a while they may have a matchup against a Tampa Bay, a matchup against the Saints, and they might have to show out. But their division, let's be honest about it, their division is lacking, and they're obviously the cream of the crop of that division. My problem is their last few wins, you look at them coming over the Lions, the Eagles, and the Bears. Oh my, how dangerous is that, right, guys? It's nothing really. But when we look at their schedule ahead, they're facing the Panthers, the Titans, and the Bears. I mean, that's the Titans are the hardest challenge out of the three of those. I mean, the Bears are going to be a division rival for them, have been, but the Titans will probably be the hardest matchup. I could see them going 3-0 easy. But the thing is, I want to keep looking ahead, and I want to keep looking ahead to teams that they might have to face, the tougher defenses. It looks like right now, Aaron Rodgers, since 2017, he's been 6-12-1 against any of the top 10 scoring defenses in the league whenever he's had to face them. This season, he's gone 1-2 against the only team he defeated was San Fran, who we know they've taken a lot of injuries to their defense, so he wasn't seeing their real defense. But then he lost to Tampa Bay's defense and to the Indianapolis Colts defense. While he didn't have the worst games against these guys, and he doesn't have the worst games against these defenses when he sees them, what it does when they play these good defenses is it opens up the holes in that Green Bay defense that they have. Right now, that defense is allowing one of the league worst 25.8 points per game, and to opposing QBs, 101.8 passer rating. I mean, looking at those numbers going to the playoffs, you're going to face some tough talent. You're going to be facing some top-tier quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, possibly Drew Brees when he comes back and he's healthy. And right now, I'm looking at that defense from last year for Green Bay, and those guys were monsters. I think they finished 7th in the league in takeaways, and they were a top-ranked defense. This season, they're tied for 30th in takeaways. Like, they're not doing it. They're not getting pressure on the quarterback so much. They're just not that team or team defense that we can rely on. So I think this is something that we really have to look at. That offense clicks, and I'm not going to lie. That offense has power, and they can put up numbers. But if that defense isn't there to provide help on the back end and save you guys some of those possessions, and it becomes a shootout with certain teams, who knows how these Green Bay Packers are going to face it down the line. I'd be a bit worried if I were them. They might get that first-round bye, but after that, it's going to be dangerous waters.
It's wild because that's sort of the issues we kept facing on our social media and people backlashing. Well, where are the Packers? Where are the Packers? They're good. It's Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams being the best, 1-2 punch in football right here in this moment. Their defense is awful. They can't stop anything against the run. And you think about it, they get off to a big lead, and the Lions couldn't end up establishing the run. That's why Matt Stafford had to play how he did. So I don't trust them too much. But I have a little bit of faith in Rodgers and Adams. So there's two teams, one in the AFC, one in the NFC for me. AFC, we've talked about them the last 2 weeks, the Steelers. I can't trust them right now. They have no run game. We saw Josh Allen. When that defense was shutting down Josh Allen, Brian Daboll made some adjustments, and all of a sudden Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are cooking. Diggs was open wherever he was on the field. So for me, coming to playoff time, are you going to face a team like the Titans? All right, you can shut down Derrick Henry for a period in time. You got A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, and Corey Davis is having his best year yet. We know what A.J. Brown is after the catch. He's a monster. So to me, there's issues around not only that offense, but the back end of their defense. We know the offense, Ben can't throw it deep. When they throw it short and can't catch it, like Deontay Johnson was doing the other night, or they can't get yards after the catch, it's tough. It's really hard for them. So there's so many questions to answer there. To me, I don't trust them. And the other team, the Saints. And they went on this big run, right? They won 9 games in a row. The teams they faced were not good. Their average – so these scoring offenses they faced were an average of 19th in the NFL. Some really bad teams here, right? And still, all right, yeah, their defense has been picking it up. Yeah, against bad teams. And they just got beat by a rookie quarterback in his first start of a horrific offensive line and really limited weapons. So for me, there's a lot of questions to answer with this Saints team. Their offense, we know Taysom Hill, right? We know what he is. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. I think if Jameis Winston was out there, maybe their offense looks a little bit better, but we haven't had to see that because they are winning games against these bad teams. Alvin Kamara isn't getting used to his full potential. Michael Thomas isn't getting used to his full potential because of Taysom Hill throwing him the ball. When it comes to playoff time, is it going to be Taysom Hill or a really banged up old Drew Brees? A lot of questions to answer. And if they aren't in the dome, if they're playing outside, there's going to be some questions to answer there too. And guys, the last couple pro seasons, they've kind of shrunk in the moment. Minnesota, they were walking into that game like they were going to blow them out. Minnesota ends up winning in overtime. Again, a couple years back with the Rams, I get there were some missed calls there. They were still up by double digits in the fourth quarter. I still don't trust this team. I need to see something take them over the hump and Drew Brees to start throwing it like it's 2011 again for me to really say that's the cream of the crop in the NFC. I don't trust them right now.
You guys bring up great teams, and I think it's obvious, right? You go with the Steelers, and you look at their team, Nolan, you said it. They're one-dimensional. Their offense is the same. It's a bunch of third, and fourth downs, and they try to get a slant here or there or do some pick plays. There's no creativity whatsoever, and teams are going to catch on to that. That's what Buffalo did. TJ Watt, since Bud Dupree's been down, where's he been, right? He hasn't been the defensive player of the year that we've all used to seeing him play. Now, mind you, he was getting some pressure on Allen, but hey, he was stepping up, finding Diggs wide open. I'm talking wide open. I think there was a series where he caught the ball for, 6 times in one drive? That's what it seemed like. Who was it? Number 14 again. And the Steelers, I don't think they're a good team when it comes to adjusting. I think they rely on that defense so much, and you should, right? They are a talented defense, but they've lost key pieces. They've lost Bush, and now they've lost Dupree in the back end. There's still some problems. Minka Fitzpatrick, where have you been? Last year, you were all over the field. I had you as my defensive player of the year because I'm thinking another year in this system, you're going to absolutely explode. I didn't see you at all. I didn't see it once on Sunday night. And I'm looking at this Steelers team, and I thought they were going to be a team that could come in here this year and take down Baltimore. Now, Baltimore's not the team we all thought they were going to be, but I thought they could do that, and they've looked good. Again, they still won 11 games, so you got to give them credit for that. But they're not there. I could see them getting bounced to round one, especially if it comes up against one of their teams in their division, like we just said. If they come up against Cleveland, I think Cleveland takes them down. I think also Baltimore. It's very hard to beat a team 3 times. I can see them taking them down. Even Miami maybe making them some problems. I don't trust the Steelers right now. What I've seen, every time they go up against a good team, they do not win. Plain and simple. Washington, look at that. Great defensive line. Couldn't get anything going. 3rd and 5s aren't going to work in the playoffs. Teams are going to catch on to that. And can they consistently put up points when you got to go up against a team like Buffalo, like we saw, like Kansas City, Tennessee? They can put up points. I don't trust the Steelers at all.
And you think about this, some of the plays that the Steelers were doing is they were down by double digits, and they would just leave Jalen Samuels just sitting there for a screen pass. It was Ben would look right. All right, I got no slants. I'll fire over a screen over here, pick up 3 yards. And it's not working. So I don't know why they haven't made any adjustments yet. I'm with you, Luca.
That Cleveland Steelers game, the Browns Steelers game at the end of the season is going to be a very telling game for what it's going to be looking for, like, for the Steelers heading into the playoffs, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right there, Steven. I mean, I think we're at a point in the season where we've seen a lot of teams that were doing so great in the beginning. Now, we're 14 going 15 weeks in, and a lot of the teams that weren't doing so well are now starting to shine in the light. So, all right. So, guys, we had a few teams that really stepped up their game over the past couple of weeks. So my question is, Nolan, whose revenge tour was the best?
So mine dates back, a couple games. So I'm looking at the Thursday game, the Rams-Pats, and that was a rematch of the Super Bowl. And Bill Belichick, he made Jared Goff look awful in a couple Februarys ago. Sean McVay didn't know what was going on. Look what happened. The Rams stuck with the run, and Cam Akers, he solidified himself as the top back on that team. He was absolutely terrific, 186 yards on the ground as a team. And again, that was without Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods doing their thing. That offense, when they're clicking, is really solid. We know what the defense can do. They made New England look horrible. And I know, Luca, that was probably tough to watch in moments. That was the best revenge tour game for me. I know there were some other ones, Dalton going back to Cincinnati, and, Alex Smith ends up getting banged up against the Niners. But for me, a game like that, to dominate them as bad as they did, and for the Rams to say, look out, we're a serious threat. This defense is legit. And when our offense clicks with our offensive-minded coach, somebody should take us serious now.
Pretty tough to watch, I'm going to be honest with you, that game. But mine is not really a revenge tour per se. I'm looking at that Bears-Texans game and Trubisky versus Deshaun Watson. We can all agree that I don't know what the heck the Bears are doing. We can all agree they've left. I don't think anyone saw maybe this out of Mahomes, but Deshaun Watson was clearly the better quarterback coming out. And they went with Trubisky. Hasn't panned out as a number 2 overall pick. Maybe in the 4th round. Okay, you could say, all right, maybe. Number 2 overall in that draft, I don't think so. But, man, he played pretty well against the Houston Texans. And he kind of said, hey, listen, NFL, I know you guys think I'm probably the worst bust when it comes to number 2 overalls. And mind you, he probably will go down as probably the biggest bust at number 2. But he played really well. 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, 126.7 rating. And they got the W. David Montgomery, he exploded early in the game. The Texans, of course, they're not a good team. Bears, they're not that great of a team. So really, I don't care who won this game. But Trubisky did play good. He played better than Watson. But again, Trubisky has the defense behind him. They got to Watson 7 times. Watson's continues on the floor, having to run for his life. The tight end dropped a wide open pass in the end zone. Again, if the sun was in his eye, whatever, still dropped it. So Watson, I feel bad for him over there. Ships out. One of the best receivers we've seen in the last 5 years for nothing. It's hard to be Deshaun Watson right now, but I got to give it to Trubisky. He showed out, and he played really well.
You said he might be this, the worst number 2 overall pick of all time. I think there's a guy in San Diego who got drafted behind Peyton Manning who might be calling and saying I'm the worst. But I'll give you.
Yeah, true.
Trubisky. he will not live up to that number 2 pick for sure.
Ryan Leaf is horrible, buddy.
They can have a conversation after. They'll have a conversation after.
So for my revenge tour, I kind of took a different approach to this. I wanted to look at a couple of the matches, and I wanted to kind of give an analogy for the matchups that happened. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Andy Dalton versus the Bengals. So the analogy for this is it's kind of like you and your ex, you guys break up because of some irreconcilable differences, and you can't perform in the clutch. But word gets around that you're single, and no one really wants you as your main piece. So someone says instead, you know what, you can play the side piece role. Till one day, the most popular girl in the country, she makes it official with you, and she says, you know what, you're the one. And then a common friend invites you to a wedding, and at this wedding, you see your ex, and you just so happen to have a moment with her, but you know what, your ex isn't there with her man. Your ex is there with her ugly cousin, and you're feeling like a boss. So on top of that, you get the win completely because now you and your beautiful girl who you're with, you guys come around, you catch the bouquet, you get the garter belt, and everything's blessed on your side, and you have a great night out there. That's how it felt for Andy Dalton against the Bengals, if you get what I'm saying.
That beautiful girl is 4-8-1, eh?
Oh, trust me, it's a beautiful girl. You know what I mean? She's not the best, but she is beautiful at times. You know what I mean?
I got you.
The second one I got, Jamal Adams versus the Jets. It's a fairly simple analogy here. You get out of a bad relationship where your ex did nothing for you, but she relied on you more than you relied on her. Your new girl, she's a winner. She has her own stuff. She's independent, and damn, she can cook, if you know what I mean. So that's just how I phrase that one. Last but not least, this is a very underlooked one, was Alex Smith versus the 49ers this past weekend. Now, this analogy goes deep. Pretty much this is you and your first ex. You guys have been separated for a long time. Some good memories still remain between the two of you. No real sour feelings. It was mutual between the two of you to move on from each other. Things are amazing for her. She's gotten engaged. She's looking to have a wedding, but the wedding got put on hold for a little bit. You, on the other hand, you've had some dark days and suffering, and you haven't been able to find your true love. But after some rehabilitation and some self-love, you find your comeback, you find your new thing, and she's about to take you out. And just by a chance meeting, you run into your first ex. It's a good time. You say hello. How you doing? How are things going? She tells you circumstances have pushed her wedding back. She hasn't been able to get married, and bad things have happened. You say bad things have happened to me too. But then your ex, your new young, stout girlfriend comes in and says, you know what? This is a culture change. I don't want you talking to your ex no more. We're going to run her out of the building. And that's exactly what the Washington Redskins did to the 49ers this past weekend. So if you guys see all my analogies, these are some real revenge tours for the main guys. Alex Smith, Jamal Adams, Andy Dalton. You guys are all winners this weekend. Look at your old teams and leave them in the past. Move on with your new girlfriends and keep it going. Let's go.
If I might add, whoever's watching this video, you need to go back and look at Chantel's face while you were doing all of these analogies. I couldn't hold in my lap. I just kept going. How long did it take for you to come up with that?
Not too long. I wanted to pick. I look back at these guys' careers with their ex-teams and just try to, phrase it out a little bit of a way that it looks like these were their ex-girlfriends and their new girlfriends are better than their ex-girlfriends. That's about it.
That was awesome.
That was friggin' awesome. I loved it. I love a good story anytime. Okay, guys. So it's time for us to discuss our top 5 power ranking teams after week 14. So I'm going to quickly get us started here. At number 5, I have Pittsburgh all the way at the bottom. With the consecutive losses these past couple of weeks, I can no longer hold them at a higher spot. Number 4, New Orleans. I had them at 3 pretty much the whole season, but after the loss against Philly, I had to move them down. I knew that Jalen Hurts was really going to come out with a bang, but I still had expected New Orleans to take home that win. So number 3, I have the Green Bay Packers. I think that they are serious about getting into the playoffs and trying to go as far as they can. And with their consecutive wins these past 3 weeks, I've kind of seen a bit of a new team there. Number 2, Buffalo. They just played an amazing game. To me, they're the ones that hit Pittsburgh down at the bottom of my list. So I gave them that number 2 spot. And, Kansas City, number 1.
Okay. Starting off, Pittsburgh, gone. You're not seeing my top 5. That's just me. For me, you're done. I'm sorry. I was debating Saints, Browns. And if the Browns win that game last night, I think we can all agree maybe you can see them in the top 5. I'm going to put them there at number 5. I like what they did. I saw a lot from them. And I don't know. I agree with what you said, Nolan. This is a Saints team that we're looking at with Taysom Hill, with Drew Brees, albeit a different story. But this team right now with Taysom Hill, I think Cleveland is a better team. Going to number 4, I got the Packers. I trust Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. They are on an historic rate right now. And the defensive side, you look at that, you look at Aaron Rodgers, they give you a chance to win every single week. Number 3, the Rams. That defense showed out against New England, made multiple stops in goal-to-goal situations. New England was 0-4 in the red zone. That's not going to get it done. They only came up with 3 points in 4 trips to the red zone. They bend but didn't break. They're looking legit. Jared Goff, if he could just play decent enough, the Rams are a serious contender. Number 2, the Bills. Said it was going to happen, and it did. They beat the Steelers, and they are looking great. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and I really like what they're doing on the defensive side of the football. Yeah, they might not get after you, but they keep everything in front of them. We haven't seen a lot of, miscommunications, a lot of breakdowns in the secondary. They're a good, sound football team. I like Buffalo number 2. And number 1, I really don't think anyone's going to knock off this team from number 1 for a while. Kansas City, they just look dominant. Miami did make it interesting, but when you got Patrick Mahomes, you're just never out of it. Him, Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill, man, they are scary.
Ooh, so for my list, I look at my list. I like to put winners in my list, but sometimes you can't always do that. Like sometimes it just doesn't work that way. So if we look at number 5 on my list, my, how the mighty have fallen. Number 1, just a couple of weeks ago, and now the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're number 5 on my list. Man, I'd be scared for you guys. I think you guys are going to fall out of that number 5 spot next week and drop down even lower. I can't trust you guys right now, man. Can't trust the pass. Can't trust the run. I hate to say it, but I don't even feel like I can trust the defense right now that much. Huh? I know. Crazy. Number 4, we're going to go with the New Orleans Saints. These guys fell off again, too. I know both these teams, the Saints and the Steelers, I had them both higher. But you know what? When you take L's and you fall off. Taysom Hill, I disrespected you before. Then I showed you love. I'm going to disrespect you again. You're not a quarterback, buddy. Put Jameis Winston in there. New Orleans Saints, you guys are number 4. Number 3, I hate this guy. I hate their defense. I don't like the Packers' defense at all, except for maybe the exception of Jair Alexander because he's on one of my fantasy teams as a defensive player. But other than that, I don't really like this Green Bay Packers defense, and I see holes in that defense every time I watch them. But you know what? Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, man, that's true. That's all it is. It's certified facts. It's certified true. The 2 of them have that connection. I think, Devontae Adams has that touchdown in, the last 5 games, or almost every game since he's had an injury, he's had a touchdown. That right there, that's insane. And their connection cannot be denied. So number 3, Green Bay Packers looking to move up. Number 2, Johnny Allen and the Buffalo Bills. My God, I don't even want to talk about the offense. I don't want to talk about Diggs. I don't want to talk about Josh Allen. I want to talk about the defense. These guys are coming into form. Last year, they were a top 2 defense in the league. This year, they didn't really start off right, but right now, heading into the playoffs, these guys look dangerous. They locked down that entire Pittsburgh wide receiver core last week, and it was scary. Tre'Davious White, low-key. He's probably the best cornerback in the game. Probably. I know there's a guy in New England who might fight that off, but Tre'Davious, come on, man, he's locking these wide receivers down. Number 1, it's been like this for most of the season. Even when they took an L, people still had them number 1, and guess what? They're still number 1, and it's not going to change. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. That's all there is, straight up.
This top 5 was, pretty tough to do because, again, there were some teams that lost, and 2 of those teams that lost, they're gone out of my top 5. Gone. New Orleans gone. I've got a couple teams that I like here instead. 5, Tennessee. Their offense is clicking. Their defense can't cover anybody, but in moments they can make plays. Similar to almost Green Bay, right? They've got a triple-headed monster in Derrick Henry, Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, and Ryan Tannehill can do his thing too. That O-line is pretty solid. But like Green Bay, they can't stop a lot of people. The team in front of Tennessee, Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, we've said enough about it. Again, they can't stop the run. Jair Alexander, I need him to you mentioned he's great. He has to start shadowing more receivers, right? Because these other guys are getting open where they can just put their worst receiver on Jair Alexander. Sure, that whole side shut down. Why don't you cover the number one moving forward? Maybe this defense starts to look a little bit better. 3, Rams. Guys, I love them right now. I think they're the best team in the NFC. I think the Rams could absolutely roll the Packers. And I know that might be shocking to say. You get Jalen Ramsey on Devontae Adams. You think Lazard or Scantling is beating Darius Williams, who's really made himself a really good corner in this league? And Aaron Donald, come on. He's a freak. And that offense with Cam Akers and those running backs running after the catch against that defense, good luck. 2, Buffalo. We've said enough about them. They've looked fantastic. Steven, I'm with you. The defense is clicking at the perfect moment right now. They did look bad. They can't stop the run much. Well, now it looks like they can stop the run because they face Pittsburgh, who doesn't know how to run, but their corners are really bringing it together. Those safeties, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, they're pretty talented there in the back. And number 1, I've had them here since week 9. Kansas City Chiefs gave me a scare, down 10 to Miami. But how about I just put up 30 straight points with my offense and my special teams? They're legit.
That's what they do. That's what they do, though. They've been doing it. That's what they do.
So that's my top 5. I know shocking, 2 teams going out of there, but I'm not too confident with it. But we'll see what happens this weekend.
We'll go down together. Nolan.
Okay, so there you have it. Our top 5 picks heading into week 15. It was so great chatting with you guys. That concludes our episode for today. Thank you so much for joining us on Touchdown with True Sports. We'll see you next week.